Now that we understand and know how to utilize the Pythagorean theorem, we can effectively apply it to address all kinds of circumstances. So for this example, it states, a zipline cable ride is a pulley system suspended on a cable that is mounted on an incline. A person riding a zipline is suspended from a pulley by a harness. One of the longest zipline cable rides in the world is the Zip Rider at the Icy Strait Point in Hoona, Alaska. From end to end, the zipline cable stretches approximately 5,493.5 feet and descends 1,330 feet. How far does a person traverse across the Icy Strait Point when riding the Zip Rider cable ride? So a couple of things to point out here. It says that the cable stretches approximately 5,493.5 feet, and it descends 1,330 feet. Now I'm going to draw a quick graphic here that might represent this scenario, and you should too. It always helps clarify what's going on. So you can imagine maybe here is where the cable ride begins, and the cable stretches 5,493.5 feet. And of course, as it stretches the 5,493.5 feet, it's also declining, it's also descending. And that descent is 1,330 feet. So I'm just going to do this. So that's probably what's occurring. And then, of course, we want to know if it traverses across the Icy Strait Point. So we're probably looking for this measurement here. And as we observe that right away, that makes our right triangle. That, of course, then lends to the idea that we could probably use the Pythagorean theorem to go ahead and solve. So since we're looking for this measure, that's what we'll do. So we'll use a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. So here's our hypotenuse. Here's one of our legs. We can label this one as A. And then, of course, this is the one that we're looking for. And we'll go ahead and we'll just label that as B. So what we can do is now we can solve simply for B. So I'm just going to use some basic algebra. I'm going to subtract a squared from the other side here. Then this becomes b squared is equal to c squared minus a squared. Continue solving. If I take the square root of b squared, then I have to take the square root of c squared minus a squared. And eventually I have b is equal to the square root of c squared minus a squared. And this looks very similar to the distance formula we were using in earlier sections. So now that I have this, I'm just going to let my calculator do all the heavy lifting here. As long as I know what the sequence is that I need in order to be able to solve for this, just use your calculator to help enter all the values here. There's no need to do each variable here individually. So b is then equal to the square root, and here is my square root right here. And you have to use the second key to activate it. So there's the square root, and then I'm going to type in c squared, and what's c? 5,493.5 feet. 5,493.5 feet, and that's squared. So I've got a square key right here. I'm just going to hit squared. And then minus a squared. And what's a? 1,330 feet. And then we squared. I'm going to use the caret key this time. If you don't have a squared key on your scientific calculator, I use the TI-30. You can use the caret key. All that does is it raises a value, and then you can type in your power. And I'm just going to type in 2. But here is our b. b is equal to c squared minus c squared minus a squared. So now that I have that, I just go ahead and hit enter. And b is approximately equal to 5,330 feet. And we'll just leave it here. Actually, it's 5,330.07, but that's close enough. So this is approximately 5,330 feet. So we answered this. You have a zip line cable that stretches 5,493.5 feet. It's a descending 1,330 feet. So how far are you going to travel across the land? Well, that's 5,330 feet. And there you go.